Hello everybody, this is Brian, and we are making a video series of a large boulder fountain. I arrived at my client Karen's house and for the first time, and Karen took me in her backyard and showed me all these really beautiful boulders and said, I pose a challenge to you, can you make a beautiful fountain that looks natural out of the rocks that I have here? And we're here in Vermont, in Shelburne, Vermont, and this type of rock is a Panton stone, which is quite famous and quite sought after, and Karen just happened to have a lot of these boulders when they built her home. So I looked around and I chose this one large rock here, which is our main feature. It's at this point in time it's canted a little bit forward because we want to get it off the ground so we can get our heavy equipment underneath it to move it. But you can see the bowl in the top. That bowl is cut for the water to flow. There's a hole drilled up in the middle of the stone, which was very difficult to do. And so then cut a bowl around that hole, and there's going to be a capstone on there that we're going to carve so that the water goes in the exact directions we want. And you can see by the front of that stone that has wonderful steps on there. So the water's going to cascade down all over around, and then it's going to flow down into the front from the sides and the back. So that rock is going to end up on this side. So now that we chose the rocks, we had to gauge our hole. So we wanted to create a pool of water that's not too deep because we don't want to use too many rocks, we don't want to use too many materials, and yet at the same time we want it to look very organic, very natural, like a spring that just sprouted up out of the earth. So this hole looks like quite a large hole, but as you can see it's not all that deep. And we dug a hole down the middle here. It's deeper on that end because that's where the pump is going to go. And we're going to put a piece of bluestone to match the patio. Put a piece of bluestone across here that's going to be slightly pitched back so that when it rains the water doesn't flow into the pool, it flows off and around. So we don't get any dirt and waste or anything inside. So the pump will be under here, the hose will run here, and we'll talk about the iron girders in just a second, the H-beam. So the hose will go up underneath here, and this is where our big boulder, our main feature rock, will live. So we have to create this extra deep hole in the middle so that I can, or someone can lay down underneath and be able to remove the hose in case there's ever a problem, make any kind of repair. So we had to make the hole a little bit deeper than I originally wanted. However, you'll notice that there are some steps. It's not perfectly refined yet, but the steps here, step there, and step there, all the way around. And these steps are absolutely necessary for making a fountain, even a shallow pool fountain like this, because when you put the liner in, after you put all the rocks and the gravel and everything, and the earth is moving all the time, so as the earth is shifting, and here in Vermont we get these clay shifts, we get the heave of the clay. This whole hillside is all clay. So we have to have little steps for the liner to sit on so that when everything moves and the weight is in there and it pulls, it doesn't pull it back inside and then we lose our water retainment. So now what I've done is I dug the hole to what I wanted, and then I pulled out all the sharp rocks and all the sticks and everything else because we're going to put a rubber liner in this EPDM liner, 60 millimeter thick liner, and it's a roofing membrane. It's very good, and so we're going to line this with that, and then once all the rocks and everything and sharp things were taken out so that they won't puncture the liner, then I had to put a layer of sand, sifted sand, so there's no sharp rocks, no sticks, nothing in the sifted sand. I put about 2 inches of sifted sand because the weight of the rocks are going to compress in that sand, and then the sand is going to give to the shape of the rock, holding the rock really stable and really beautiful so that we don't have to fidget with it. Also that sand is protecting it so that when I have the sand in and it sinks into the sand, I know that sand is clean, it's not going to puncture the liner, which is absolutely essential. If that liner gets punctured, we have a really big problem. So when I'm installing the liner, I'll be walking in this pool area without shoes, without any kind of socks, totally barefooted, because this way I can feel anything sharp that's in there. It's absolutely essential to be very, 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 very protective of that liner. So again, the liner will go across here, come up the step, across, up the step, up, across the step, up, and then we have to overlap the liner over the edge of the pool. So where you have this nice step, and it comes up, we're going to overlap probably about 16 inches, because that can always be trimmed if we wish to, but if there's any splash, if there's any oversplash, then we can protect from the oversplash. That'll go right back into the pool. Because remember, whatever you do with a rock fountain, there is going to be splash coming off a rock, and you have to prepare for that. Otherwise, one day you come home and your pool is emptied and your pump is burnt out. So please take care. Now, something else we ran into, someone else had installed the patio first, and they had put probably 24 inches or so of gravel, very sharp gravel inside. And I pulled the patio up, redid the patio, and I didn't see any of this gravel when I had done that. So when we started digging the hole, I came across all this gravel. This will puncture a liner. So you can see two little cuts here. I'm building a box to pour concrete. So I'll have a U-shaped box to build a little concrete border wall. That's what our stone will sit on, and also the liner will go up onto that. Once that concrete is cured, then I'll go across it with my grinder, and I'll sand down the other, feather off the edges, the pointed sharp edges, and get rid of any kind of chunky sand or any kind of chunky gravel that's sticking out of the concrete mix. So then it'll be ready for the liner. Now, you may be asking, why would you have really large H-beam girders inside a fountain? Well, we have a 3-ton rock. So we need, in order to be able to have access to the hose and to any kind of repair, we have this hole in here. So the girder has to go across. It's 9.5 feet for a 9.5 foot each section for a 4.5 foot rock. And this way, any weight will be distributed evenly throughout, and it will prevent it from compressing too far into the ground. The engineer said that it would be the best idea to go with a minimum of 4 inch. We've got about a 4.5 inch girder here, H-beam. So this thing will last and last and last and last. Yes, it will be exposed to water. Once the liner goes in, then the girder will go on. Underneath the girder, we're going to have these cinder blocks. So the cinder blocks are going to run from the edge of the hole to the end of the H-beam on all 4 sides. And this way, when the weight of the stone goes down onto the girders, it'll press down onto it, and it'll prevent it from shifting and sinking too much and then puncturing the hole. Okay, so let me explain that a little bit better. First, this will come out, and then I'll sink these guys, full length of the overhang, all 4 sides. Once that's done, then I'm going to take this flooring material, which is a very inexpensive flooring material. It's a clipped together foam floor. This is my own little technique, and it works really fantastically. So if I cover, these cinder blocks look really smooth, but in reality they have some sharp sand and some abrasive edges, and where they're chipped and so on, they could possibly puncture the liner. So when I cut this, and I'll cut this into strips, each piece, and I will cover all of this on the 4 sides. Then I'll put my liner. Then I'll put another layer of this over the liner, where the girders are going to be, the H-beams, and then I'll put the H-beams down. And then on top of the H-beams, I'm going to have 4 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's where our rock will go. And then around that, we'll have all these other rocks that we'll decorate. I hope that was informative, and thank you for taking a look at my video. Stay tuned for the future successes and completion of this project.